Do not adjust your viewing device. I am in black and white for good reason. It is one of my favourite times of the year. It is what us film fans have come to call Noirvember. This is a celebration of film noir during the month of November, where we basically just watch a whole load of film noir movies. This also happens to coincide with the Barnes & Noble 50% off sale for Criterion Collection Blu-rays and DVDs and 4Ks. So I thought I'd just show you some of my favourite film noir movies within the Criterion Collection. If I happen to miss off one of your favourite noirs within the collection, then let me know in the comments below. But let's get on to my list. So first of all, I have a wonderful noir film, Kiss Me Deadly from Robert Aldrich. This is such a provocative, searing film noir. I mean, just look at this front cover design on the Criterion. This film goes in so many different bizarre places, at points even veering into proper genre territory, like horror, sci-fi territory. It really is crazy and not what you would expect. If you're not too familiar with film noir, the basic idea of this type of filmmaking, it's very cynical. Often we know that the story is not going to end well for anyone when we get to the finish of the film. And you get this here. There is tons of cynicism and it's just kind of bleak and distressing, but also so enjoyable, so pulpy. And this has gone on to inspire so many filmmakers. I use the word pulpy there because there is some very overt nods from Tarantino in Pulp Fiction to Kiss Me Deadly. The same with Alex Cox in his film Repo Man. There's some, obvious inspirations there. So this is a hugely inspirational film for many modern filmmakers, and it totally stands up. So if you're looking to get what I would consider one of the quintessential noir films of the period that really took the tropes of the genre as far as they could go, Kiss Me Deadly is it. I can't talk about film noir and the Criterion Collection without mentioning one of my favourites. It's In a Lonely Place from Nicholas Ray. This is starring Humphrey Bogart and Gloria Graham, two actors who are absolutely phenomenal. Big names from the period. They starred in many noir films or noir adjacent type of films. And this is just a pinnacle of, I think everyone involved in this film is working at the height of their powers. It's also one of those films that is about a screenwriter, so it's related to Hollywood. And I think film noir is so tied into the idea of Hollywood and the kind of seedy underbelly, the crime and corruption under this, Tinseltown glittering exterior. So it's a perfect setting, perfect characters for this film. And Nicholas Ray, who was very much a maverick, he was one of those guys that worked within the studio system but really pushed it to its limits, and he made so many films that really stand up today, this being one of them. So if you can grab this on the Criterion disc, I totally recommend it. It is available in the UK as well, so if you're not able to take part in this 50% off sale in the US, you can pick this up on these shores as well. Now for something a bit different, I have The Naked City from Jules Dassin. This one is different because it was famously shot on location in New York City. They didn't really use many film sets for this. There was use of non-professional actors and lots of, not extras, just people on the streets walking by. Stanley Kubrick took some of the photography on the behind the scenes of this film, and apparently you can see him in the film as well. I can't remember if I actually noticed him, but that's just a little tidbit to note about this film. It's a very strong film noir, and the way it was made adds a level of realism to a type of film, the noir film, that usually is so detracted from reality. It's hyperinflated, it's melodramatic, so there's this weird juxtaposition between realism and something that is so obviously fictional. I can't recommend this one enough. It's from a 4K digital restoration on the Criterion disc, and it comes at an interesting period in Jules Dassin's career because this was about the time that he was getting sort of pushed out of Hollywood due to his political beliefs. It was before he went to Europe and made Rafifi and Topkapi and a bunch of films that he made there, before he eventually settled in Greece. So, fascinating film, a fascinating filmmaker. I recommend this one wholeheartedly. Going back to Hollywood now, we have one of the most iconic performances and films of the period. It's Gilda. And I'm talking about Rita Hayworth, of course. Iconic to the pure definition of the word. This one very much focuses on the glitz and the glamour of someone working in this profession. And as Criterion describe it on the back here, it's one of the most sensual of all Hollywood noirs. And it stars one of the mainstays, Glenn Ford, who is, a great actor, a rugged actor. He plays very bitter roles sometimes, and you definitely get this in Gilda. Not much more to say. Iconic, and I think it's worth having in your collection. Another of my all-time favourite noirs now, it's Pick Up on South Street from Samuel Fuller. This one is so great. It's about a pickpocket who ends up getting wrapped up in this conspiracy to do with communism and plans for some kind of weapon. It's very good, very pulpy, but also has some great performances with moments of realism from Richard Widmark, who I think is one of the best noir faces of the period. Very much like Nicholas Ray, who I talked about before, Sam Fuller was one of those guys who worked within the studio system but really was a proper maverick. He didn't want to play by the rules, but he just about did within that studio system. And we have so many great films from him because of how he was and what his energy was like. You could say this one is kind of Dostoevskian. It did inspire Robert Bresson's Pickpocket, which is almost a completely different kind of film, but a very similar premise about a pickpocket. And the film looks great on the 4K restoration on the Criterion disc. So one that I recommend wholeheartedly to anyone looking to dip their toes further into film noir. This next one is an essential, in my opinion. It's Mildred Pierce, the brilliant performance from Joan Crawford and superb direction from Michael Curtiz, based on the novel from James M. Cain, who was one of the most prominent hard-boiled fiction writers of the period, and many of his works got adapted, and he worked on a number of films as well. So just one of the quintessential kind of noirish stories brought to screen here. It's a very emotional film because it's about a mother who has this daughter who is, to put it lightly, she's a bit of a pain, and her kind of blind love for this daughter really is her undoing. And it's very noirish in that there is this cynicism. You know it's not going to have that much of a happy ending. And I just love the way it's crafted, the way the story's told. And Joan Crawford is just amazing in this one. So I recommend this to anyone who can get their hands on it. Again, this is a UK disc as well, so you can get this in Region B. So hopefully you can check this out during this Noirvember. I couldn't do this video without mentioning this next film. It's Detour, and this is such a special noir. I always mention that it's a very compact film. It's only 69 minutes long, so it's barely even a feature film at that point. But there's so much packed in here that makes it, one of those quintessential noir films. You've got Anne Savage as Vera, who is just so, vitriolic. She's like acid to be around. And just one of the best, female characters in any film noir. I absolutely love this one. And I implore everyone to check this out. This is really one of those noir films that I feel like doesn't get talked about enough. It really is like one of the textbook works of the genre. So please check out Detour if you can get your hands on it. Again, this is a UK disc, so you can get this in the UK as well. So yeah, please check out this during Noirvember. If you enjoyed hearing me talk about these noir films and you want some more film recommendations for this November and for buying in the Criterion sale, then check out the video on screen now. I talk about some other films that you can perhaps buy during the Criterion sale to add to your own collection. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you very soon.